for showtimes.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Well, nothing tends to jolt people to really pay attention in the crucial final weeks of an election season quite like the first presidential debate. And that's exactly where we are tonight. In about 2 hours in Cleveland, Ohio, Joe Biden and Donald Trump will face off in the first of 3 debates. As polls both nationally and in battleground states show Biden holding the lead. Trump is set to have a primetime moment with scandalous headlines hovering over him. The New York Times reporting that Trump paid no federal income taxes for a decade and only $750 the year he ran for office and his first year in the White House. But what is perhaps the most damaging to Trump's brand is that he isn't just bad at being president, he's bad at business too, and basically broke. It's all bound to come out tonight, given how debates are political blood sport, and we're already getting a taste of what's to come in today's pregame show, with alleged Trump campaign requests that debate moderator Chris Wallace not mention the number of COVID-19 deaths, to a phony new conspiracy theory of a Biden earpiece, part of Trump's ongoing ploy to paint his opponent as physically and mentally diminished. One doesn't protest too much. It's a ploy that could backfire. A campaign normally wants to lower the bar for its own candidate, not for the opponent. That was certainly the case with Hillary Clinton, who was painted as a Goliath in the debate department, with Trump saying there was a danger in prepping too much for risking that he would sound too scripted or phony. We're seeing the opposite with Biden, with Team Trump pumping out the messaging that Biden is weak and feeble, lowering the bar for Biden, to the point where all he literally has to do is show up in order to appear like a very stable genius. As for Biden's approach, if we can glean from his debate guests, which include 3 people affected by the coronavirus pandemic in different ways, he will remind voters of what Trump really meant by America first. With the coronavirus pandemic now taking 1 million lives worldwide and the U.S. leading the world in COVID-19 deaths at more than 206,000. Joining me now is Neera Tanden, President and CEO of the Center for American Progress, Jason Johnson, Professor of Politics and Journalism at Morgan State University, and Philippe Reines, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and former spokesman for Hillary Clinton. He also played Donald Trump during the Hillary Clinton debate prep back in 2016. And normally I would do ladies first, but I got to go to Philippe first, because the picture, I'm sorry, but that story about you handing over your Trump suit with an oversized jacket and shoe lifts, like lift shoes, to give it over, like, to the new guy who's playing Trump is just too funny, and I have to play it. I have to go to you first. So I want to play a little montage. You will remember this. This is Trump versus Hillary in 2016. Here it is.
As you know, you've seen me. I've been all over the place. You decided to stay home, and that's okay.
I think Donald just criticized me for preparing for this debate. And yes, I did. And you know what else I prepared for? I prepared to be president. And I think that's a good thing.
He'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit
that
the Russians.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
It kind of breaks your heart to watch this and realize that, he was kind of, telling us everything we needed to know about what he'd be as president. But just to tell us, in terms of preparation, purely to prepare for a debate, Philippe, he interrupts. He has, sort of joke lines. He's prepared with a few lines, which is actually how he did The Apprentice. He had certain zinger lines that the producers would give him, and he would say the zinger lines. He's good at that, if nothing else. What should Biden expect? You're like, he's not even good at that. Like, Philippe is such a hater. He's like, no, he's not.
I think there are certain things he does just happens to work. By the way, I want to note that Neera was smiling during the introduction because she knows that I had been practicing my whole life to be Donald Trump and just didn't know it. And it was the perfect casting.
You got to lose a lot more money, buddy. You got to go in a lot more debt and lose a whole lot of cash before you can be Donald
Trump.
Trump.
More weight. Joe Biden is going to face the Donald Trump that is the same person as 4 years ago, but a different circumstance. Donald Trump had nothing to lose before in 2016. Now he has everything to lose. And that's going to manifest itself a little differently. 4 years ago, Trump had, the histrionics, the hair, the face, the butchering of the English language. He had his fundamental issues of trade, immigration, healthcare, the swamp. He had a well-honed attack on Hillary, which you just saw crystallize in one, sentence, crooked Hillary, go to jail. And he minimally defended himself, even something as egregious as the Access Hollywood tape. You go forward 4 years, no one knows what his plan is for the second term. Most importantly, he doesn't know. He can't even ask if Sean Hannity asks him. And he has no honed attack on Joe Biden. He's now releasing, he's now calling for ear canal checks. And somehow they're calling Joe Biden crazy when they're the people asking for ears to be checked. But what he really doesn't have is an inability to do anything other than grieve. He just is a grievance machine. You can ask him, what day of the week is it? And he's going to say, the ramp was so slippery, but the last 10 feet. Or he's going to say, the Ukrainian president called beautiful, perfect transcript. And he goes on, and we see this every day. And he said himself that his preparation is sparring with the press. Problem is, he decides when to do it, decides what to talk about, decides how long to talk about it, decides who to call on, who to cut off, and when to walk away. That is not what he's going to experience in just over 2 hours. And if he wants to eat his time, the real question is, should Joe Biden be engaging him and fighting back? And how much Joe Biden should be wasting time? The actual question is Donald Trump going to spend all his time whining and moaning? Because if he is, and that's the guy we see every day, Joe Biden might as well just say, look, thank you, Chris, for having me. Thank you, Cleveland. And I now yield my 45 minutes to Donald Trump to shoot himself in the foot.
Okay, Jason's shot is back, but I'm gonna let you hold off for a second, Jason. Don't let your shot go down again. It's not that you're in control of the internets, but I'm gonna go to Neera really quick here because Biden I have been astounded, Neera, by the strategy of the Rudy Giuliani's and others that are on TV trying to talk Biden down as if he's just barely alive and he can barely dress himself. No way he's going to make it. He may not even show up. Rush Limbaugh's like, he's not even going to show up tonight. They've talked it down literally to the point where Biden literally has to show up and just say, good evening, everyone, in a full sentence. And it'd be like, Biden, it was amazing. We thought that he wasn't going to be that vibrant. Look at how vibrant he was. They've literally set Biden up for success. And Biden isn't a bad debater. I think people forget who this guy is. Let's play what I think was Biden's finest moment in a debate ever. Here it is.
Rudy Giuliani. I mean, think about it. Rudy Giuliani, there's only three things he mentioned in a sentence, a noun and a verb and 9/11. I mean, there's nothing else. There's nothing else.
Neera, to this day, when I see Rudy Giuliani, until he started, doing crimey stuff in Ukraine, all I thought of was a noun, a verb, and 9/11. That stuck. So Biden, what do you think we're going to see from Biden tonight?
I think the really central question here, and Philippe alluded to it, is that Donald Trump is a little bit of a carnival barker. He really uses misdirection and sleights of hand to get you to focus on other things than what's important to you. So that's been his whole presidency. It's one distraction, deception, distraction, deception. The real issue is he's president of the United States. He has overseen the coronavirus response. 200,000 people have died. It is the worst response amongst the worst responses in the world. And Joe Biden has an opportunity to just really tell the American people how he would do better, how Trump has failed them, and how he'll do better. And I think, he really should address the American people. He can dismiss Trump's lies, but he has a real opportunity here, which is to just explain how he would be a better president, which, just to say, is not that hard to do. And so I think it's going to be I think it'll be refreshing to people. And all the lies they tell about Biden, people are going to be able to see in the hours of the debate the real Joe Biden, not the scary monster, the real Joe Biden. And that is a big help to him.
Just to go through a few of the polls here. Pennsylvania, there's a new ABC Washington Post poll that shows Biden up 54-45. That's up +9. That's a big deal in a race where Pennsylvania is very important. White non-college voters in that poll are splitting Trump 58, Biden 41. So Trump still has an advantage there. But, Philippe, this reminds me of Obama, right? Joe Biden does not have to win a majority of white working class voters, even though it's weird because he is one, right? So you'd think he'd be more relatable to them. But putting that aside, he just has to get a respectable number. And because of non-white voters, that will plus him up over the top. What do you think Biden can get out of the fact, do you think he is getting the maximum out of being a Pennsylvania native, out of the Scranton narrative? And I'm sure it helps him that, Trump doesn't pay taxes. I mean, he and Kamala Harris released their tax bills today, or their tax returns today. They actually pay taxes. That's kind of helpful, right? So how does he use that tonight?
Yeah, well, Trump was losing ground with white, non-college educated men even before the tax problem. Now, I think particularly the $750 number that is so easy to relate to. And, he would have been better off paying zero or getting a $72 million refund, which he also got, but that no one really even mentions. The problem with Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania scares me. Pennsylvania in 2016, there were really two baskets. There was Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin and Michigan, we lost largely because of low turnout among black men. Donald Trump got fewer votes in Michigan than Mitt Romney, and he didn't get that many more votes than Mitt Romney in Wisconsin. Pennsylvania was the place where the Trump effect was in full force. You had 300,000 new voters. The public polling was wrong. The private polling was wrong. The campaign, the Priorities USA, other third-party entities spent tens upon tens of millions of dollars. She lived there. So, I want to see a plus 19 from Pennsylvania to even begin to start feeling comfortable. And I don't think we've ever really solved it. I hope it's as simple as him being from Scranton. I don't think it is, but I do think there's a difference between now and 4 years ago is that people can now see what they bought. And some people, they might have just wanted him to blow up the world, but some people might have wanted him to blow up the world and build something better. And now they're going to see that I just inadvertently used the Build Back Better slogan. They're going to see that Joe Biden can do it better.
But we have Jason now on the phone. I feel like Room Raider came for him and was like, that shot is not cute enough, so you got to go. So I feel like Room Raider was involved because I'm a bit obsessed with them, so I'm going to say that they were involved in it because I think they have real power. Jason, now from a place where you cannot be gotten by Room Raider, let's talk about that. Because, Trump, to the point that Philippe made, so Trump, he leads Biden by 17 among college white voters, but in 2016, he won them by 32. So he's gone down a little bit. He's eroded with some voters who maybe don't like what they bought. White voters without four-year college degrees account for about half of Pennsylvania's electorate, but you also have Philadelphia, the Philadelphia suburbs. Yes, black people live in the suburbs. There's a lot of black folks in Pennsylvania, too. And Hillary had a bit of a soft number. We now know that there was some shenanigans. We know from the reporting out of Channel 4 News in Britain that there were some deliberate attempts to drag down black votes for Hillary Clinton, and we know that was part of it. What do you think of Biden's chances in a state like Pennsylvania that is a difficult state?
Well, look, I've always thought that the Scranton thing was a bit overplayed. He could say he's from Scranton. He could say he was a Philly Flyer. He could say he worked at Dunder Mifflin. It doesn't really change the fact that you have some conservative people in that state who initially liked Donald Trump. What does work for Joe Biden, and what I've said all along, what I said 2.5 years ago, the Democrats are probably going to have to pick a white guy, and they got themselves a fairly comfortable white guy. And we're not just seeing this in Pennsylvania. I think it was a poll I just saw this morning in North Dakota where Donald Trump had beaten Hillary Clinton by 36, and now he's only beating Joe Biden by 19.
Yeah.
Joe Biden has been able to connect with white people, college-educated white people, non-college-educated white people, because they don't see him as an immediate threat to their way of life. What has been a threat to their way of life is a president who wanted to get us into war with Iran, a president who wanted to get us into war with North Korea, and a president who has us all sitting at home every day because he doesn't have a plan for how to go to war with COVID. So all of those things combined have been helping Joe Biden a lot.
And Neera, I think that's the key, right? COVID changes everything, sort of the way, Katrina changed everything for Bush. Whether you like Donald Trump for whatever reason, you probably still are not being able to go to work. If you have a bar, it ain't open, unless you're in Florida. If you have a restaurant, it ain't open. You're losing money. This is real.
Yeah, I think this is actually a critical point. Sure, Joe Biden has attributes that, he's always done well with white seniors. Really, for years, he's done well with white seniors. But he's doing much better with even white non-college women. And I think it really comes back to healthcare on two levels. First, the virus itself, coronavirus, the fact that 200,000 people have died on Trump's watch. But also the Supreme Court case comes back to this. The Supreme Court nomination comes back to this. Because what is the number one issue? The fact that Trump's appointee will definitely overturn the Affordable Care Act in a pandemic.
Yeah.
There is no Trump appointee who is not going to do that, and he admitted it over the weekend. So I think, and we know from 2018 that health care is a predominant issue. One of the reasons why Democrats were able to put together a coalition that we're seeing now: moderate, more working class whites, white non-college voters, and college-educated voters.
Yeah.
And people of color.
Absolutely.
The whole coalition has been really central.
And there are about to be 7 million more people with a pre-existing condition. And Republicans, one of their planks, one of their core beliefs is that insurance companies should be able to charge you more if you have a pre-existing condition. Just understand that. They ain't trying to pass anything that lets you off the hook. They want insurance companies to be free and have the liberty to charge you more. That's what you'd be in for. Near Tandon, Jason Johnson, he's going to get his shot together and call up the folks at Room Raiders and negotiate peace. Just sue for peace. Philippe Reines, thank you very much. I'm sure I'll text you desperately later for advice. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you all. The countdown continues to tonight.